Founder, Chairman, CEO of FedEx.
Fred Smith, United States Marine Corps.
Express guy, right?
FedEx Chairman and CEO Fred Smith.
Creating the overnight air express industry.
Quite frankly, at the time, we owed so much more money than I wanted. Blackjack that night, it wasn't even close.
What if I told you that for 2 years, FedEx was on the verge of bankruptcy almost every single day? We all know the legend of how Fred saved the company by winning $25,000 in Vegas. But the truth is, they owed so much money that it wasn't even close to saving the company. Because after that, the FBI was trying to put him in jail for bank fraud. But this isn't about a $2 million fake loan. This is a story about putting an entire $14 million inheritance on the line to fight the entire aviation industry in order to birth the dream of overnight shipping, all to fulfill his late dad's last wish. Let's get into it. On August 11, 1944, in Mississippi, Fred Smith was born with a disease where his hips didn't grow properly. Doctors said he never walked normally, let alone play sports. Disappointed, Fred struggled with crutches. He went to thousands of hours of therapy. As he fought to walk properly, his dad died, leaving him and his mom alone at only 4 years old. When his hips recovered at 10 years old, Fred decided to do the things he liked. While other kids got their driver's license, Fred got his pilot's license, flying propeller planes. He went to study economics in Yale, but he was aimless and bored in school. He wrote a 15-page term paper for Economics 43A just the night before. He hoped to pass. Fred had just wrote the original idea of FedEx, but the professor read it and said, "The concept is interesting and well-formed, but in order to earn better than a C, the idea must be feasible." However, before it would change the world, first something happened that turned Fred into an old man overnight. Following graduation, he flew to Vietnam and served as a Marine. He led men on search and destroy missions. Mortars dropped on his position. Soldiers in front, on the sides, and behind him all fell. He was the only one left standing. It was a nightmare. He called airstrikes on the enemy that were only 50 meters away, close enough to feel the heat on his face. But remember the original idea for FedEx that Fred wrote about? The military used the system in Vietnam, but the execution was all wrong. Medical equipment was left around for days, while non-essential items moved quickly. It was eye-opening. The system Fred wrote about would work, if he could make it more reliable. Fred came back from Vietnam, sick of blowing stuff up. Turning 21, a letter arrived from his dead dad. His dad wrote, "Use your inheritance to build more wealth. Do something with your life." So Fred buys his stepdad's company, Arkansas Aviation Sales. The company was losing money. His business partner was cooking the books. When Fred discovers the losses, he transforms it from a repair shop into a successful jet parts brokerage. But Fred didn't want to deal with shady people, and rush shipments were always a week late. What was he gonna do? He thought back to his Yale paper, and he decided to create a company that flies airplanes overnight, carrying checks from the Federal Reserve banks to one place, then sort it and send it out to his destination the next day.
If you want to connect every point in the United States with 500-mile-an-hour airplanes connected through a hub and spokes switching hub, you have to put that hub someplace in a trapezoid between Memphis, St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Nashville, Tennessee. If you go any further west or south or north, you can't make the connect. One part of the country doesn't work.
The Federal Reserve would jump at the idea because it took 10 days to move checks between banks, and a float of $3 million each day couldn't be used. But to start, Fred needed jets, so he got a $3.6 million loan from his trust fund. He bought 2 jets, then pitched his idea to the Federal Reserve. The bankers were receptive to it. With everything going to plan, Federal Express was created on June 18, 1971. Fred thought a lot about his exciting new business that let him fly. He was excited. But then the Federal Reserve changed their minds. Internal politics killed the proposal. Their answer disappointed Fred, but he thought it could still work. There was no overnight delivery in the early 1970s, so he bet on the possibility that people would pay more for it. He hired 2 consulting firms to research the market for his idea. It would lure in investors. Meanwhile, The 2 jets they bought exceeded weight. Fred lobbied for an increase in the weight limits on cargo planes, or else he'd have to wait 4 years to get a weight exemption. No one could wait that long. July 1972, he got the weight exemption and he bought 10 more planes. But investors were nervous about a no-name company. At the same time, the consultants finished their studies. The business could make $1 billion a year, enough to pay for the jets and pay off the $3.6 million loan. But they needed $15.9 million to set it up, 30 Falcon jets to carry all the packages, and hundreds of thousands in package volume. Fred felt uneasy knowing it would take all his inheritance plus more in loans. But it was a dream worth chasing. Armed with the studies, Fred raised $91 million in venture capital from General Dynamics, Citicorp, and Prudential Securities. March 12, 1973, launch day. Fred, his wife, the entire senior management waited. Projections showed 3,000 packages, but on the inside they expected 300, a small but good start. The plane touched down. People needed a service like this. The hangar door opened. How many? Everyone held their breaths. 6 packages came out. One was a FedEx employee's laundry. Another was a package Fred mailed to himself. How could they get only 6 packages? No one wanted to use them? Why? After the spectacularly depressing first day of operations, Fred decided on a second launch just 4 weeks later. They couldn't give up. They needed more customers, and this meant expansion. Fred looked at the potential cities and chose the ones with the highest employment in offices and medical facilities. He bet on the ones with the best return. They added 15 new cities for a total of 25. To generate awareness, they advertised in magazines and met with company executives. The fear of failure made everyone desperate. Sales reps climbed the fire escape for a chance to talk to CEOs. They hoped for more people to use their service. April 17, 1973, just before midnight, couriers called in after every stop. All 25 cities had an accurate count. $25 million invested. The plane was descending to land. Did the expansion make a difference? The jet landed on the runway. Were they going to have a future after this? It stopped before them. The plane opened and showed 185 packages. After 25 million, only 185 boxes. People were disappointed, frustrated, and scared for their future. Sensing bankruptcy, employees updated their resumes and held going out of business parties. What followed was 23 months of bleeding. From May to September in 1973, they were on the edge of default on everything they borrowed. Fred asked employees not to cash paychecks. Couriers hawked their watches to buy fuel. At the airport, a FedEx man watched for creditors from the bank. To avoid repossession, they told jets not to land. On other days, fire trucks blocked their planes. Didn't pay landing fees, couldn't take off. The pilots paid with credit. But in this time, the number of customers grew steadily, and they were now delivering 1,000 packages a day. Everyone could see the service was working. They just had to start making money before they ran out of cash. If they just kept going while balancing expenses without any bad luck, then they would eventually succeed. Hoping for it.
11 Arab countries cut off all oil shipments to the United States.
We are heading toward the most acute shortages of energy since World War II.
You've done everything you can to try and get oil, have you?
Yeah.
In January 1974, the Arab oil embargo triggered a nationwide fuel crisis. Companies got a fuel allotment based on how much they used 2 years ago. FedEx wasn't in business then, so they got almost nothing. Transporting 3,000 packages per day now, they needed 4 million gallons. Fred was infuriated. FedEx was being limited by factors they couldn't control. To get the allotment, Fred went to Washington to secure permission for 4 million gallons, but costs tripled overnight. Just to survive, they paid the higher prices. So by mid-1974, they were losing $1 million a month. Bleeding cash, their account dwindled to $5,000. Fred felt numb. Every Monday they needed to pay in advance for that week's fuel. Without it, they couldn't fly. The bill was $24,000. but they couldn't pay. Hoping to secure another investment, Fred visited General Dynamics late Friday afternoon. Surely the investors would understand their situation. But General Dynamics refused. No one wanted to take the risk. On the way back from the meeting, while waiting in Chicago O'Hare International Airport, Fred saw a flight to Las Vegas. Then, an idea formed in his mind. His childhood disease, his love for flying, fighting in Vietnam, Dad's letter, persistence, passion, duty, all swirled inside him. He always fought, no matter how hard. Now was the same. He'd fight until the end, for Dad, for flying, for himself. Never give up, keep going. Final boarding call. Fred snapped back to the moment. He decided to bet everything on himself. He boarded the flight to Las Vegas. In the biography, Overnight Success, it said Fred flew to Vegas with a few $100s and won $27,000 to pay the bill and keep the company alive. Fred himself said,
We played a lot of poker and blackjack in Vietnam. Our battalion chaplain, Father Vincent Capodanno, who was a great man, used to play with us all the time, and he was a master, so I was a very good blackjack player. And I was hired by a man to fly him to Las Vegas, and he gave me a line of credit for $5,000. So in those days, the casinos had only a single deck. They didn't have multiple decks. I won $35,000, and I lost back down to $27,000.
What's interesting is that an anonymous employee who claimed to have worked at FedEx at the time says Fred went to Vegas to see Howard Hughes to secure an investment. But while he was waiting to see Howard, Fred won $27,000 from playing blackjack. It's unclear what actually happened, but Fred got the money they needed, and they operated for one more week. And soon after that, they raised $11 million from investors to keep the company going. Then the unexpected happened. On March 6, 1974, the bank found out Fred made fake documents to approve a loan, backed by the stock in the family trust. Fred needed it to keep the company alive. His sisters sued him. They argued he was being irresponsible. On the same night, he was arrested for hitting a jaywalker with his car, killing him. The company was still losing $1 million a month. All he had, he put into the company. The FBI was trying to send him to prison. Depression kept him up at night, and he thought about jumping from the balcony. Was this the end? Fred apologized to the bank manager for the forgery. He would sell everything to make it up. But seeing how much weight he lost, the manager encouraged him to keep going. Needing money to keep going, Fred went to Paris. Meeting with the Rothschild family over lunch, he convinced them to invest $9 million to pay back loans and expenses. Then he settled with his sisters on a lawsuit as the police dropped the hit-and-run case. Not enough evidence. The board of directors pressed Fred to resign, but all the senior vice presidents got together to sign a letter saying they'd resign too if Fred was fired, killing any chance to recoup their money. The investors gave up. Finally, in July 1975, they made their very first month of profit, $55,000. A relief. They started to make money. Knowing he couldn't have done it alone, Fred paid bonuses to every employee who was still with the company. The dream was starting to become real. But apart from the $49 million in loans to pay back, they started to have too many packages to deliver. They either needed bigger planes or they stopped growing. So Fred went to Washington to ask the government to get out of the way. They refused to give him an exemption on the weight limit, even though the rules were outdated. He hoped they could see his point of view, but the officials were being difficult. He was so frustrated, he ripped up their rulebook and threw it on the table saying, "You don't know anything. This is what I think of your arguments. You don't understand the law, and you are jeopardizing our company by being difficult." He feared the big airliners and the government would never reform. While Fred was fighting for deregulation, package volume grew so much that the Memphis hub couldn't sort and deliver on time. Tens of thousands of packages were being handled every night, but about 150 packages were arriving late. They couldn't keep their promise of overnight delivery. slowly losing trust. They tried everything to speed it up. Pep talks, bonuses, threats, nothing worked. Then they noticed it. Pay by the hour. If the hub ran late, employees made more money. So Fred changed one thing: pay by the shift. Fred said, if you get through before a certain time, just go home. Get it done, go home, get paid exactly the same. In 45 days, they ran on time, even early. And just in time, because two things happened. FedEx started to advertise on TV to continue growing the company.
Hi, Jane. How's the wife? How's the kids? How's the weather? How about those Yankees? I just got the proposal. I think the perfect way to proceed at this point, 10:30 a.m., would be for me to have my assistant duplicate it, collate it, translate it, telegraph it, reciprocate it, reiterate it, and expurgate it. Then I think with all due haste, my assistant should tabulate it, word process it, index it, file it, cross-reference it, computerize it, to make sure that every man, woman, and child in the United States gets a copy. After that, I think we should run with it, move forward with it, make the big move with it, hit the streets with it, put everything we've got in.
Airing the iconic when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight campaign.
Even a vice president can do it.
Hello, Federal.
All you do is pick up the phone. We come to your office and pick up the package. Or even a president can do that.
Hello, Federal.
In fact, using Federal Express is so simple that even a chairman of the board can do it.
Hello!
It was funny, interesting, and effective.
Freeman, if this package isn't in Peoria by tomorrow morning, it's yours.
Simpson, if this package isn't in Peoria by tomorrow morning.
Harley, if this package is not in Peoria by tomorrow.
If more people knew enough to call Federal Express in a situation like this, it sure would save everybody a whole lot of grief.
More and more people started to use them.
There's a Mr. Schnittler here to see you.
Tell him to wait 15 seconds.
Can you wait 15 seconds?
I'll wait 15 seconds. Congratulations on your deal in Denver, Dave. I'm putting you down to deal with Dallas. Don, is it a deal? Do we have a deal? It's a deal. I gotta go. I got a call coming in. Hi, Doc. Just tell it Don.
In this fast-moving, high-pressure, get-it-done-yesterday world, aren't you glad there's one company that can keep up with it all?
You got a deal. Good.
Their efforts were paying off. And then in 1977, Fred continued to lobby in Washington. He saw the whole airline industry fight against reform, but on November 8th, the president signed a new House bill to remove limits on efficiency and competition. FedEx can now use the planes they needed. They got what they hoped for. And with that, FedEx made $3.4 million in profit. The only thing left to do was go public. On April 12, 1978, on the New York Stock Exchange, they went public at $24 per share. With 56% of employees buying stocks, they raised $17 million. Courier drivers who hawked their watches to save the company became millionaires. For Fred, he finally made his idea a reality, just like he knew he would. FedEx went on to make more money than his inheritance gave him. But I don't know if Fred would have pulled it off if he wasn't born with a debilitating disease, or if he didn't serve in Vietnam. Ultimately, he carried those lessons with him through the dark times. And the fact that he was willing to risk everything his dad passed down to him just made it all crazier. But in the end, he fulfilled his dad's wish and his own. I would love to hear your thoughts on the story. Did this inspire you? Take care and see you in the next one.